Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where my goal is to take the mystery out of wine. It is just a beverage. And today I am very happy to have my local winemaker Chris Primus join me. He is a winemaker at San Juan Vineyards, a beautiful spot in the San Juan Islands, 3 miles out of town on Roach Harbor Road. And Chris has really developed as a winemaker since I met him in 2006.
Yes.
2006. And he's won several medals for his wines. And thank you, Chris, for coming on the show.
All right. Thanks for having me, Stan.
All right. I've always called Chris the king of Cab Franc. I think Chris Primus, in my opinion, this is my opinion, makes some of the best Cab Franc in Washington State. And Chris, I just would like you to take a few moments to tell everyone how you got into wine and why Cab Franc seems to be your pet.
Sure. I got into wine through a class my senior year of college, wine appreciation class.
Okay.
And that really was my introduction to wine. Didn't grow up with wine in the family, anything like that. It was strictly through this class.
All right.
Yeah, that was great. Cabernet Franc came to my attention at my first job at Columbia Winery. When I started working there, the guys in the cellar, this was 2001, were really excited about the 97 Cabernet Franc. And I believe it was a Red Willow Vineyard Cab Franc that was out at that time. So that was my introduction to Cab Franc, and then I moved to Oregon making Pinot Noir, and a lot of the people in the industry down there were very excited about Loire Valley Cabernet Franc from France. When they were looking for something other than Pinot Noir, that tended to be the choice. So I got into those wines and became a Cab Franc, bit of a fanatic about it.
Yeah. So in the Loire Valley in France, it's called Chinon, which a lot of us, I love that quote. Oz Clarke said, "French labels are a work of art, not a work of information." And that is one of the things I think where wine snobbery comes in. A lot of these guys pride themselves in saying Chinon, and oh, you didn't know it was Cab Franc? Well, come on, how many people know that Chinon is Cab Franc? I mean, I know a lot of you out there do know that, but there's a lot of us that don't know that. And so when you see a Chinon on the label, you're drinking Cab Franc from France.
But there's also a couple other districts there that are Cab Franc as well, Saumur and Bourgues.
Okay.
As well.
All right. Can you remember that? Saumur and Bourgues.
Yeah, but don't take my pronunciation.
Well, yours is probably better than mine.
Yeah, I can spell it, but I can't pronounce it.
But the point is that, Cab Franc, especially in Chinon, will a lot of times show a lot of herbaceousness. You get a lot of that salad character to it. Whereas Chris Primus's Cab Francs are definitely not in that real herbaceous green bell pepper salad thing. So, some people don't like that in their wines. Some people do. I know I do from time to time. You probably like it too.
I think it adds some character to the wine other than just a pure fruit profile.
Absolutely. So, Chris, why do you think that there was a time, and I think it was about 8 years ago, that Cab Franc, they thought it would be the new hot varietal. They were big on Cab Franc, and I love Cab Franc myself. Why do you think it never really took off?
Maybe the name. I mean, it's hard to say. I know that Washington State planted a lot of Cabernet Franc. A lot of the big players expected it to be the next big thing. And when that didn't happen, there was a lot of Cab Franc available for smaller producers like us. So I think we're getting some really high quality fruit. I'm not sure why Cab Franc didn't take off. I don't know.
Now, this is my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But some wineries, put a heavy dose of oak on their Cab Francs. And I think what that did was made them to me, they made them kind of goopy, mocha, chocolate, which some people like, but I think it kind of took away from the purity of the fruit. And I think maybe that is because it wasn't really an identity. I think Cab Franc suffers from a little bit of an identity crisis. Like if you put too much oak on it, it gets really different than a Chinon, which is really herbaceous and green bell pepper. And of course, there's some domestic Cab Francs that have that. And then you have the more traditional style where you get a little bit of herbaceousness, but you don't get that goopy oakiness, or you don't get that over the top sort of herbaceous. So do you think it might be suffering a little bit from an identity crisis?
Sure. Also, Cabernet Franc too seems to be, it's not a big blockbuster wine. They tend to be a little more restrained, lighter bodied. The flavors are more subtle, I think, than other varietals such as Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon.
So it's more like a Pinot Noir.
I think it's a Pinot Noir of Eastern Washington.
All right.
It's kind of,
there you go.
It's kind of what I call it sometimes.
So Chris thought it'd be really cool to do a kind of a vertical of different years of his Cab Franc. So we have a 2007 Horseheaven Hills Cab Franc, 2008, they're all Horseheaven Hills, 2010, and then he pulled a barrel sample of, right out of the barrel, of the 2012 Cab Franc, which 2012 is a good vintage.
2012 was great.
Yes.
I've done 8 vintages in Washington State, and 2012 was by far the tastiest fruit that in the vineyard that I've ever seen, heads and shoulders above other years.
Wow.
The growing year, I think, was just perfect.
Hear that, guys? 2012.
2012. It was hard to make bad wine that year.
That's probably why we don't have an 11 out here. 11 was a tough vintage in Washington. The weather didn't cooperate.
No.
There's a lot of problems. That's when they had the big freeze in November of 2010, right?
Yes.
And it ruined, hurt a lot of the vines. So we are on to the San Juan Vineyards 2007 Cab Franc, Horseheaven Hills. I'm using a different hand. You like that? Okay. Well, let's see what we get on the nose. What are you getting, Chris?
Get something dark, like something.
Oh, by the way, before we get too deeply in this, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks for winning the NFC Championship game. They're in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
We're all excited about it. It must have been the most stressful game I've ever watched in my life. Man, was that tough to watch. And of course, the Broncos are going to be there. It's going to be a great Super Bowl. Looking forward to that. Let's get back to the wine. I just had to put that in there. I get a little bit of like a minty sort of.
Okay, sure. I also get some that's not quite
Black
tar.
licorice.
Yeah, some black licorice. Exactly.
Yeah.
Fennel,
Good.
anise.
Good aromas. That's what I like about your wines, Chris. They're great aromatics. Of course, now, how important, and we can beat a dead horse here, but fruit source is probably the most important thing with any wine.
Absolutely. I think the 3 most important factors in the wine, how wine turns out, are the fruit source, the yeast you use to ferment it, and the barrels that it's aged in. I think those 3 on the winemaker's side of it are the most influential parts of winemaking.
Then, of course, a winemaker can butcher the terroir if they want.
Oh, sure.
Through manipulation.
Yes, there's other things you can do, but those 3
We know
factors
that Chris does not manipulate his wine.
I try not to. Try to use yeast and a few other ingredients, but that's about it. The grape source, the primary source for the Cabernet Franc is Alder Ridge.
Okay.
They're block 1 Cabernet Franc. Alder Ridge is a vineyard of probably 700 to 800 acres. The Cab Franc is a very small block, and it is on a north-facing slope. This is very unusual because generally you hear about southern-facing slopes. But it's in the Horseheaven Hills, which is typically the 3rd warmest growing region in eastern Washington, and so it provides a bit of a cooler microclimate in a hot growing region, and I think that really allows the Cabernet Franc to hold its varietal characteristics.
Oh, gotcha. Nice little fact about Alder Ridge. Alder Ridge is a pretty famous vineyard in Washington State, by the way. Right up there with DeBrule and some of the other great spots. Wall Oak Slope. Okay, what are we getting on the palate, Chris? Ooh, this is fleshed out really nice. It's got a nice, like a real cherry kind of. I get a little bit of green bell pepper on the back end of this one. Mm-hmm. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Don't be afraid. You're not going to get a green salad in this one. Well, you probably. Is there any 07 out there? Has anybody bought any 07? Have it in their cellar?
No.
If you do, I think it's ready to drink right now.
Yeah, sure. It's a nice, soft, red fruit that seems very focused. The finish to me and the aftertaste lingers for a nice long time. It's just like this very pretty red fruit.
Yeah, it's got a little rose petal. You get the licorice and rose petal kind of hang out. Yeah, it has this baby has a long finish. It's still going on in the mouth. Great bottle of wine. It's still got good acidity. I mean, it's got nice backbone of acid. Yeah, this is proof to me that. Now, this was your second vintage, right?
The second vintage.
Your first official full vintage at San Juan Vineyards, right? Where you didn't inherit some of the.
Correct.
Yeah.
I went and tracked down this fruit. Andrew Rich, a colleague down in Oregon, who I really respect his wines. I called him when I was looking for Cabernet Franc, and he recommended this vineyard, and so I called them.
All right.
I was lucky to get their fruit.
Let's move on to the next one. So
I would pair that with. I always love lamb, so I would say lamb or.
Yeah, lamb and Cab Franc. That's a classic pairing.
And also the wines out of the Loire Valley, the Cabernet Franc out of there. To me, I get a lot of cranberry type of tart red acidity in those wines, and I don't see that domestically.
Yeah,
at all.
I agree.
But it's
absolutely
completely different soil. It's different sun, different precipitation.
So I've been doing a little thing on Merlot. Let's get a little shot of this. 2008, San Juan Vineyards, Cab Franc, Horse Heaven Hills. Got it? Cool.
Ton of color on that. It's really dark.
Yeah, we don't have any, no white backdrop, but yes, definitely a lot of color on that. Now, I've been doing a series on Merlot on my YouTube channel, and I just think that Merlot is fantastic, especially out of Washington State. I think we make some of the best Merlot.
Agreed.
How do you? I know the last two vintages of Merlot you made were outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
And why do you think that Washington State has such good Merlot?
Oh, that's interesting. I think they have really good Merlot. So one thing that I've noticed in the vineyards where we buy Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon is that the Merlot seems to like it warmer during the growing season than Cab Sauv does. It seems to respond better to that. So I'd say it's the heat in Eastern Washington.
And it ripens quicker.
Because like in Bordeaux, like left bank, right bank, I get those very confused. But one is Merlot and one is Cab Sauv, and I think it's because the one side that the Merlot is on is a warmer side.
Yeah,
I think
that'd be the right bank. Yeah. One of the most famous wines in the world, Petrus, is nearly 100% Merlot. So those of you that are influenced by that movie Sideways, or you think that Merlot is not worth your time, Petrus I think is released at around, it's ridiculous, like $1,700 a bottle on release. So crazy. Well, I'm getting a lot more herbaceousness on the nose on this one.
and fruit.
And fruit,
And
yes.
it seems like crushed blackberries or.
Some cherries in there. It is spicy on the nose. There's a spicy element to it also. Definitely bigger on the nose than the S7.
Yeah.
Definitely more aromatically
more
bigger,
forceful.
which is quite interesting because you're only talking a year. I'm having trouble with 08 for some reason. I can't remember the characteristics of 08.
It was cooler.
It was cooler.
07 was quite warm.
Okay.
08 was quite a bit cooler.
All right.
So I think you do get a little more of that herbaceous in there.
And would help with the maturation of the fruit. More balance.
Yeah, I think it has more character. I think it has more character of the actual grape itself.
All right.
And I refer to it as bramble. Oftentimes, when you have the fruit and the grain all mixed together, it's like you picked blackberries, but along with that, you took some of the shoots with the thorns on them and the leaves, and you put it all in a blender and you mix it up, and that's what you smell with everything together.
All right, yeah. Now this is more of a wine geek's Cab Franc. It has the little bit of the salad thing going on, a little bit of the chopped up celery and green bell peppers, but it's not, like Chris said, it's not dominant. There is that blackberry fruit that's in there, the little bit of cherry fruit going on, and definitely the licorice. It seems like your Cab Francs in particular, that kind of anise, for
flavor comes through. Sure.
That don't like to say black licorice.
Right.
We say anise. I use black licorice, by the way. Makes more sense.
Or
I kind of like that natural black licorice, not the vine stuff that
Twizzlers.
It's all sweet, but more of that natural black licorice.
This one is way more savory to me than the other one. The other one had much brighter, redder fruit. This is darker fruit flavors and savory.
So what do you think of Eric Asimov? He's the New York Times wine columnist. Is it Times? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's Times. He said, we should only describe wines two ways, sweet or savory.
Oh.
That was my reaction.
I think it's a simplification. Nothing's black and white like that. Anything in life that's...
You should have seen the flack he got for that on Twitter. It was crazy. You always got to be careful what you say. Man.
I think this has got some life left in it.
Oh man, this 08 Cab Franc, 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, I would
easily.
say another 5 years too.
Yeah, easily. There's good acid on it. I mean, these are great wines. Now, one thing I don't do, and I will not do it, is grade a wine in front of the winemaker. I'm just not going to go there.
Well, thank you, Stan.
I just think that's.
Thank you. That's great.
I mean, you're on the program, right? You already went that far.
Right.
I am not going to grade it. You get to read it on my blog if you want, but all right. The reason we're rinsing these, even though they're all Cab Franc, is because they all have different flavor characteristics. Like, for instance, that one we just had. You want to rinse that out? The one we just had a lot of herbaceousness to it, so that could bleed over into. Let's take a look at this one. The 2010. I don't know if we need to zoom all these, but we will just for you guys. 2010 Cab Franc, San Juan Vineyards. Now, did any of these get awards?
Yes. Yes. The 07, the 08, and the 2010 have all received double gold medals at competitions.
Wow.
And a double gold is a unanimous decision among the judges that have received a gold medal.
All right.
So typically there are 5 judges on a panel, so all 5 judges said that the wine deserved a gold medal. So, and I think that's worth something.
Yes. In fact, I read an article where they said that only gold medal means 1 or 2 of the judges decided. 1 of the judges.
Well, 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 out of 5.
Right.
But a double gold, all the judges
Yes.
gave it a gold medal. So that's a very prestigious award. So I think people recognize that Chris does have that touch on Cab Franc, among other things, of course. But we're focusing on Cab Franc today.
Mm.
Wow, this is
That's much softer nose.
yeah, a little perfumey.
Yeah, yes, perfuming. So this one was 100% French oak. These previous ones had some Hungarian and American oak in them.
Okay.
But by 2010, it was 100% French and only 10% new oak.
Okay, and oak really does make a difference. The styles of oak, the cooperage, all that makes a difference.
Yes.
In how they toast it. And of course, you probably have specific things you're looking for in oak?
Yes, there's certain coopers I like. The one producer is Sylvan. Their oak tends to lend kind of a graphite character or pencil edge shavings that I think matches nicely with the fruit in Eastern Washington.
Wow, nice. Sylvan is not didn't pay us anything for him to say that, just so you know. I always kind of stayed away from pencil lead in my descriptors because I thought that was kind of an abstract.
And people don't find it appetizing. I use it all the time, and you're like, oh. But I think it's very graphite. I don't know, whatever.
I tend to use the word minty because pencil lead is on the minty side.
Okay, sure.
But I went to a Bordeaux tasting. We tasted 50 Bordeauxs in a matter of 3 hours. You taste 50 Bordeauxs, I guarantee you're going to understand what pencil lead is all about, because Bordeaux is definitely all about pencil lead. Again, you get that not as much of the herbaceousness on the nose.
No, not like the 08. It's a little calmer.
And the black licorice is there on the nose.
The mouth on this is more subtle than the 08. And 2010 was a cooler year as well, similar to 8. But it's this is definitely more subtle and not so.
I love it when I splash myself. Okay. This has a lot.
And this is our current release.
A lot more tannic grip on the back end.
Yes.
You get a lot more of that leather. It's obviously a lot more youthful.
Yes.
A lot more youthful. I guess that's the right way to say it. And the 2010 is available right now.
Yes,
Right?
that is our current release.
So if you want a good wine with your lamb, this 2010 is definitely the way to go. Wow, nice wine. Now that's got 10 years easy. Good acid, good structure, nice balance. I think it's a little young right now. I think people if you're not a geek about Cab Franc, you may want to buy one of these, a couple of them, put them away for a couple of years. That will soften up. But if you're a geek like us, we're going to love this stuff. It's got good acid. It'll go with a lot of different meats. Go with barbecue really well. Like barbecue chicken. Be perfect with this one. Because of that acid and that bright fruit that's on it, would definitely match up well. Nice work, Chris. See, I knew it. Cab Franc King. I'm excited about the barrel sample.
I'm a little hesitant to show people barrel samples because the wines I put in bottle are blended. This barrel sample is one piece in my blending puzzle. I have 7 different lots of wine. Those will all be blended into 4 different finished wines that actually go in the bottle.
Okay.
So this is not been blended with anything else. It is strictly a single lot, single varietal. Sometimes they come across as a little simplistic, but there will definitely be some other blending done before this is put in the bottle.
So blending is a huge part of the winemaking process, wouldn't you say?
It is. And I choose yeast based on their characters, so I have nice blending options. Because what I do is I'll get 8 tons of Cabernet Franc from Alder Ridge Vineyard, and I'll split that into 2 4-ton fermenters and use 2 different yeasts and end up with a little bit different characters from each of them, and hopefully the final product will be a nice balance, showing off the fruit and the terroir.
So I feel privileged that Chris is actually sharing this barrel sample with me, and
this is like going into the kitchen of a restaurant and tasting the ingredients before they're plated and sent out to the table.
Sure. Yeah. So you guys, hopefully you understand that we're tasting out of one barrel, which he is going to eventually use in a blend of several different barrels to create the final product. But it is interesting to see how the fruit is progressing. So really this is just an example of one of the ingredients, as he said. And
it's super fruity. I mean, it smells really young.
Yeah, it's got a lot of menthol. I get the licorice out of this one, and a lot of
menthol.
So he'll take this barrel and use it to give characteristics to the wine that he feels will express the Cab Franc in the best way. Blending by the winemaker is their signature on the wine, and all winemakers go through a different process. Some do it by committee, some just have a couple of different people look at it. I know Winter, you use him a lot in the blending process. I actually had a chance to be involved a little bit in a Chardonnay reserve that they did, which was really fun.
Oh, that was fun. It was a good time.
And it was good because we agreed on the same plan. Chris told me if you disagree with me, I'm sorry, I'm going my way. That's all right, you know. I was just there as an observer to experience the process.
And there, in 2012, no new oak whatsoever. In fact, there was no new oak, no one-year-old oak in there at all.
Wow.
Yes.
It's got a nice mouthfeel. It's pretty plush.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And I don't get any of the green stuff as
No.
much. Just barely on the back end. I get a little bit of that twig kind of action going on. So obviously, I would think that in the end, you might use this to kind of round out your Cab Franc a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll probably, my thought process right now is probably a little Cabernet Sauvignon will go in here too, to add a little darker element to it as well.
All right. Good stuff. Looking forward to that 12. Boy, that even unblended, it's tasting pretty good. All right. I want to thank you, Chris, for coming on the program.
My
I don't know
pleasure.
if we got to talk a whole lot about everything, but I really appreciate you coming. It won't be your last one.
Oh, okay.
I might want to do a
No
Merlot
problem.
one with you. But
Yeah,
thanks.
sure. Yeah, no, let's do it.
And thanks for watching. Here's to taking the snob out of wine. Cheers.